I say your ebullient tones are once more breathing life into the glorious medium that is broadcast news. Yours is the voice of a seraphim, who's preened and prepared by carefully waxing every single feather before gargling with the amber distillate of serendipity itself, and then singing its aria to the host of heaven. And, speaking of divine instruction, this week the Prime Minister of our humble nation graced our screens once more to lead us out of the wilderness of lockdown. And what an inspiring, pre-recorded 35th take of a speech it was! The hair was carefully brushed, the suit elegantly fitted, and the fists were clenched as he pointed with his thumbs in that noble, statesmanlike way that no ordinary human being would ever be able to pull off. And what clarity! It was like a consommé in a 3-star restaurant. The kind of clarity that you can only achieve after all the shit has well and truly risen to the top. Oh, it begins. What splendiferous bounty! Of course, the naysayers and never-Johnsons have been out in force, trumpeting their ignorant indignation even in the face of such inspiring leadership. Nothing our glorious leader will ever do will be enough to satisfy their tedious chattering. Any other PM would have been laid on a bed of peacock feathers, fanned with palm fronds and fed peeled grapes for all that he's achieved, and yet the proletariat still seek to tear him down, claiming his truths to be self-evident falsehoods. He couldn't have been clearer. The worst is over, and now you must go back to work, unless you can't, in which case you have to, and you can't take public transport, unless you have to, but you mustn't, in order to get to the work that may or may not have reopened depending on whether or not it is essential, which most workplaces now are, apart from the ones that are not. And you must do all of this while social distancing unless it's not possible, in which case you don't have to, even though you really should, and if you can't, you should cover your face, even though you don't have to. And to give us all a whole 12 hours to digest, process, and apply these new guidelines to our everyday lives before Monday morning. It was generous beyond belief. It's really very simple. And it was a real triumph of leadership to get all 3 of the 4 nations to agree to disagree with all of this clear and concise advice by leaving them to find out about it in the Sunday papers. Oh, baptize me, Daddy. I welcome my salvation. Oh. Speaking of truly glorious deluge, the clarity has only continued this week. Dominic Raab pumped the teats of the morning news cycle like a Bavarian milkmaid on Monday to spurt out even more of it into the tin bucket of our comprehension. Now we understand, clearly and concisely, that we are allowed to visit one family member from outside our household in a park from a safe distance, apart from when we aren't and shouldn't, which is roughly an hour later in the morning when the advice changes. And then half an hour later it changes back again. It's all part of staying alert. You don't run in a straight line to dodge a virus. You duck and weave so it can't catch you. Personally, I think we can all agree Mr. Raab has risen spectacularly to the occasion during this pandemic. He's worked so hard that he's developed a second emotion. Blind panic, to sit nicely on his motherboard right next to the barely contained apoplectic rage he feels whenever he's called out for completely failing the bereaved family of a British teenager killed in a traffic accident. Not that I think he failed. I wouldn't dream of such blasphemy. Personally, I think every member of the cabinet has been positively wonderful since the moment they had their prominence thrust upon them. Yes, Daddy. Baby needs his nug-nug. Oh. Oh. Look, it's really very simple. The negativity is hurting us. And in many ways, criticising Boris Johnson is potentially much more harmful than recklessly reopening the economy with a series of poorly communicated and confusing instructions that baffle both employers and workers who are yet to receive any clear guidelines on what their responsibilities within the workplace even are. Boris is leading from the front. We've avoided the potential tragedy of 500,000 deaths. Not only that, we've avoided a planet-killing meteor strike, and not one of the titans of legend have risen from the depths of hell to lay siege to our cities. On top of those unbelievable achievements, this week Mr. Johnson also took bold action on air travel and announced that we are now set to be the first nation to be the last to enforce quarantine measures on passengers arriving into the country. So tell me, what could possibly be clearer or more decisive than that? We have to let the government do its job. It is our patriotic duty in this time of crisis to stay in lane and know our place. I know mine. The question is, are you enough of a patriot to know yours? I'm Sebastian Forelock, shackled naked under a glass coffee table at one of Michael Gove's cocktail parties, reporting for IC News. Oh, yes, Daddy. Yes, befoul me. I am the pavement to your Pomeranian. Baste me, for I am ready for the oven of your love.